to start with the panel discussion, Countering Cyber Threats in BFSI Industry, in which we have distinguished panelists sharing some valuable insights. I would like to start with introducing the panel members, starting with Mr. Prasanna Lohar. Lohar is currently working as innovation head and technical architect at DCB Bank. He's practicing innovation implementation and architecture orchestration at DCB Bank. He comes with over 18 years of industry experience in engineering and development, product development, organization strategy and governance, and is recipient of many leadership awards like Top 50 CIOs, Top 100 Innovation CIOs, Digital Leader of the Year, Top 20 BFSI Leaders. He has addressed many BFSI conferences as keynote speaker and contributed to the ecosystem. Our next panel member, Sanjivan Shirke. Mr. Shirke has more than 25 years experience in information technology and hands-on experience on application development, database, network, and server technologies and information security leadership. He has been working with UTI Asset Management since more than a decade and handling information technology and information security. Our third panelist, Mr. Ganpati Venkatram, is a seasoned banker with rich experience in banking as well as IT in banking industry, along with exposure to information security audit and security. He's a certified information system auditor and is currently the CISO at ESAF Bank and has over 40 years of experience, 40 years of domain experience, spread over hands-on experience in IT, banking technology, domain, along with info security. Our next panel member, Sajiv Nair. Sajiv heads the Managed Security Services, Network and Data Center Management function at ESDS. With over 22 years of exposure in IT, he leverages his understanding of customer environments, clubbed with his knowledge and experience on cybersecurity, to build an effective talk and improvising the network and data center capability to the customer. I would like to introduce now the moderator of the session, Mr. Shailesh Dudani, Senior Director BFSI at ESDS. With over 23 years of cross-industry and vertical experience, driving a broad range of business objectives across finance technology and digital transformation. In past, Shailesh has worked with various ICT companies like Huawei Technologies, Telstra Global, Dimension Data, for driving solutions to business to build technology infrastructure in enterprise vertical. Over to you, Shailesh.
Thank you, Shardul. Thank you for that introduction. Let me once again request all our esteemed panelists to put up their to keep their video on. And before I speak about the topic, let us reflect what's happening to the InfoSec teams and the leaders who have countered this cybersecurity threat in the BFSI industry. So increasingly, the business teams, the IT teams, the InfoSec teams are under pressure to innovate, protect itself from all kinds of cybersecurity attacks. And hence, there is a very critical need for a continuous adaptive risk and trust assessment and continuously assess the ecosystem risk which extends beyond the wall of the enterprise and adapting to the overall security. And faced with these external pressures, the role of CISO and information security leaders becomes all the more challenging and critical. And then this brings us to a theme and the question, which is the pressures on InfoSec and incident responder teams. So the question is, in this post-pandemic digital era, what are the pressures faced by InfoSec and IT leaders and CISO teams in managing security incidents in their organization? What are the various measures and responses to these IT security threats or incidents on cyber attacks, specifically with your organization in mind? Can I request Sanjivan to take this question? Sanjivan Shirke from UTI Asset Management till Prasanna joins us. What are the pressures faced by the information security IT leaders and CISO teams in managing these security incidents in their organization?
Thank you, Shailesh. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly, Sanjivan.
Right. Thank you, Shailesh, and thank you, everybody. And I think a special thanks to Rajiv. I think he has really laid the platform very well. And I was minutely observing each statement, that when you marry, you should be ready for divorce. So, what is the percentage of divorce? Maybe 100 out of maybe one or so. But that 1%, the 1% makes a lot of difference in cybersecurity. Okay, his intention could be that. Okay, and second, he said very well he has articulated the statement that first of all, you should think like a hacker if you want to really protect your infra and protect your assets. And thanks, Rajiv. I think all these I was really minutely observing your statements. So let me tell you, in the BFSI, we are really we have to be in toes in the recent days, and in the recent past, lot of compliance are coming, and board has been now very actively been alerted, and they are actively participating what's actually happening on the ground level. Earlier, board used to look at more or less on the compliance and all, but now the board is also looking like, okay, how are you protecting your infra, your assets? What is the technologies that you have been implemented? What is on the access layer? What is the data protection layer that you're using? I was shocked to see, and they're getting more and more attentive, and they also wanted to know that we have a proper due diligence. The threats are really increasing in the BFSI. We need to understand that there's the crown jewel. Okay, what is that crown jewel? Is that the data, the customer data? Now the customer data, because of the organization structure, it might not be in your custody. It might be into the custody of, say, some R&D or some of your partner. How do you protect that data? So technology wise, probably that time somebody is handling, uh, probably it is not under your purview. So how do you bind that, and how do you ensure the security? This is one of the aspects I want to give it to the forum. So you need to look at, because there's a different way to handle that. Okay, they might install the technology on the data encryption, access layer, PAM, PIM, but what is the most important is, are they really monitoring? What is the monitoring tool they are using? Or within the organization, what is the monitoring tool they are using? Is these tools are really capable of monitoring? Because there's something called uh, proactive approach and reactive approach. When you look at something like SOC, understand that SOC is always a reactive approach. Okay, nobody attacks within an hour. It takes time for a person to reconnaissance. Okay, there's a suspicious. You should know how the suspicions to get rid of this, identify those suspicions, and these are humanly not possible. Okay, because you will have top tools, you will have SIM, but you need to overlay something to give a finishing touch, like automating certain things. And the compliances are looking at that. How are you protecting your information on the fly? So any attack is coming, are you really detecting? That is where the board and the compliance, even the regulators are looking at it. And you need to be very, very proactive in detecting the suspicious. Okay, if you don't detect the suspicions, the problem is tomorrow it might attack your infra, and when they will attack, it could be a massive attack, because these are the attacks which are coming in the piecemeal basis and in the pieces, and they get accumulated in your infra, and then they will bombard and blast. So this is what, Shailesh, just to begin with, I have put my views.
Thank you, Sanjivan, for your response to it. Can I flip the same question, because it's a very interesting question and very relevant to CISOs of the banks. Venkataraman ji, in your view, as performing the role of CISO for ISAF Bank, what are the typical pressures which are faced in managing such security incidents in the organizations, and what are those typical measures and responses on the cyber security attacks? Your experience and your thoughts on this same question. Okay, I think so. Mr. Venkataraman's, while his mic is on, he's not able to speak. So, Prasanna, would you like to take this question till Mr. Venkataraman is able
Yeah,
to join?
very good evening, Shailesh ji, and I think if you can repeat the question for me, it will be good because I thought there was some session was going on, so I was on mute or doing some my work. I thought let me pitch in whenever my turn comes. So,
Yeah.
so I think so. Once again, thank you so much from the ESDS, right? So looking forward for engaging session right now here onwards. So if you can just throw on a light, like what is that you want me to address, so I'll just be chip in.
So,
Go ahead.
thank you so much, Prasanna ji. So as the leader for digital and innovation in DCB Bank, what are the typical pressures faced by the InfoSec team and the IT leaders like you in managing these security incidents which happen in banking organizations and BFSI organizations, and typical response to these IT security threats or cyber attacks on BFSI organizations?
Yeah, so you want me to answer what CISO does, right? In a next 5 minutes. So typically,
Yes.
so, so I think it's a very good question. But I think coming back to Shailesh, what's happening is that suppose I would have been in a part of a bank or any organization in 2014. So I would have not that many challenges. The way the challenges are increased or leaps and bounds in the last 4 to 5 years. Okay, that's a straight through answer for you. The challenges are increased, and challenges are increased at multiple endpoints. So endpoint could be devices as well as the endpoints could be humans also, or employees or customers. So that's the territory of cyber security has increased heavily for every organization. And the thing is, like, the way we have physical borders for any country, right? There is no border for a cyber security. So attack can come from any part of the world, right? If he gets that particular loophole within your organization's network, so he is there, and you are not aware that a particular malware or a particular process which is running and taking the data, understanding the overall patterns of the transaction, and one fine day starts the attacking your system for some time. And typically it happens in financial system, right? So that the money can be taken off from ATMs or POS. We have seen in some years back there was a 32 million cards being cloned, right? Or even last last year we had some banks being attacked through this malware and all. So coming back, what's happening, right? So earlier there were only one or two guys as a IT security representatives within an organization. Today it has become a complete department. Okay, why? Because your customer movement has really changed. Like customer who was doing transaction on a branch. Say example, let's take a banking ecosystem. Customer who was coming to your branch, now he is coming on to your mobile phone. He is coming on to the internet banking. Apart from that, your customer is going on to these aggregated apps like phone pay, Google Pay, and everywhere. Okay, and this is your current story since last 4 to 5 years, right? Now same customer will be there on will be asking their IoT devices or their cars or homes to do the transaction on behalf of them. Now coming back, readiness, right? So it's as I always say that readiness is very important for any every organization. After any fraud or after any that attack, your all image which you have created for years together, it will vanish within minutes. So it is very very important to have that unit and the right governance at any organization level. So that's the first pillar, to have a right governance, right set of people, skilled people. If you do not have, hire them, reskill them internally. That's very very important. Second thing is around your systems and infrastructure, could be your servers or could be your endpoints being utilized by users. So all this ecosystem has to be under some monitoring. So there are a lot of tools. I'm not talking about tools, but I'm talking about the areas where you need to have a security, right? On your laptops, on your servers, on your laptop, these USBs and all things, right? Third pillar, which is now increased heavily to really see around the best practices, or say example, there are best practices and various antivirus tools are available, but to deploy those best practices tools is very important, right? To take care of your endpoints and devices. Fourth thing is like there has to be a very good support from a regulator, which is there from our, say example, Indian banking ecosystem. We are blessed with a very good regulator, RBI. So since, if you've seen since last 5 to 6 years, RBI every month or regularly come up with some kind of a guideline. Say it is a OTP. For a OTP is one of, we are one of those country who has OTP, right? On your credit card transaction or any other financial transaction. There are limits for these types of transaction, right? On RTGS, UPI, or any NEFT or IMPS. So RBI has given some recommendation. Banks should have a fraud risk management tool, or they should implement adaptive authentication for your channels. Say it could be mobile or internet banking. So example, I am doing transaction from Borivali, from Mumbai, and all of a sudden next hour the transaction is coming from a country where I cannot travel within 1 hour unless I am Superman or something, right? So to identify these behaviors, there are tools like RSA, or some of the tools which are implemented IFRM are mandatorily asked as a guideline from RBI. So fourth pillar is very important, what regulator says, and we should comply on that. So now the first pillar which I was talking about, the governance, is responsibility of them to comply all these guidelines given by the RBI and the regulator. And the fifth pillar, I think, is a is a like a discipline. Okay, so any system which goes live in the production, as a discipline, I need to understand from that code how I'm writing the code. Can I avoid code injections after going into production? Before that also, can I do some kind of a vulnerability assessment or penetration testing on the fly before I go live? So I think that is very important to block those doors for attackers when I'm going to production. And I'll talk about another two pillars. Sixth, which I think our one of our expert already spoken about, monitoring tools, SOC, post and dark trace to be there, so that online you are monitoring your frauds, or online you are monitoring attacks and so on. But most important pillar is the seventh pillar. Okay, Shailesh, I will talk about, because more than 90% of frauds in the world happens because of some kind of a negligence by employee, or some kind of a internal fraud, or somebody has opened some email, or somebody has put some USB in your laptop, and your whole network get jammed or attacked, right? So that is most important, that awareness, customer awareness, and internal employee awareness. Do not open any of those links. Like how many times you must have, as a banker, you must have given those SMSs or emails to the customer. There are few customers, right? They will still keep on doing, and they will again call back to the same bank. My OTP has stolen, and my money has gone, right? So that is very, very important. Even if we keep on implementing very good things around these first six pillars, seventh pillar is very important, which is like awareness of frauds, how fraud happens. We should not share PIN. We should not share your OTP. You should not hand over the card to the card holder to do a transaction at a shopping mall, or so that he can go and. So that is not happening in the EMV case, but still, so these kind of best practices should be done by the customers also. So I think if we are aligned as an organization for all of these seven things, na, it's I think we are minimizing those cases of frauds. I'm not saying we are 100% foolproof, because it's a race between hackers and IT security officers. These tools, right? Hackers are always ahead. They have a best practices. They have their own networks to do frauds, and this fraud doesn't happen in one day. They are planning since years to be done. They're observing the network. They're observing transactions. They're observing changes in the network, changes in the system, and one fine day they will choose. Let's attack this particular country, and within that, this organization, and we'll move ahead. So motto could be anything: financial theft, or a data theft, or many other things. But as an organization, as a country, now this has become very, very important topic for everybody. We have now security cell at a national level, right? We have a security practices at national level. So that is why it's very important at every pillar. At education, you will find number of CISOs increase since last 7 8 years. It's humongous, right? And this keeps on continuing, right? So I think this is in nutshell from my side, Shailesh, to begin with. And as we go, we we might have a different kind of a security challenges here onwards once we land up in 5G. We land up in augmented reality. We land up in IoTs. We are not yet ready, and we are talking about adopting this thing out of wearables and this and that, right? People can hack your car and drive your automated car on themselves, or people can reorder food from your refrigerator by hacking your refrigerator. We yet to reach that level, but I think as the journey moves on, right, customer is moving in a such a way that after pandemic they will come and talk to bank, do you have this feature? No, then I'll move on to the another bank. So
Sure.
it's like a game, like balancing everything, balancing your customer expectation, keep on implementing your systems and secure them. It's a complete balance between all these pillars together. I think what 7 guidelines I was talking about, if any organization follows, and I think most of the organization knows that, but if they follow rigorously, I think we are reducing number of frauds, or we have a less room of having frauds within our organization. Yeah.
Thank you, Prasanna ji. Thank you for your guidelines, the 7 guidelines which organizations need to follow to ensure that the threat from the cybersecurity side is minimized. It was also very interesting to know a statement that, yeah, while there are borders for people and countries, there are not really any borders for malwares, for any kind of security incidents. Let me bring in here somebody who has been initially started his career on the banking, on the technology side, domain experience in technology, then moved to banking and blended it with security. 40 years experience. Mr. Venkataraman, a question to you. Taking out from where Prasanna left. So, what is the best approach for information security for BFSI organization in terms of reworking their security posture to optimize their security? Should it be in-house security team? Should it be outsourced to SOC, to a managed service provider? What model you think works best in your experience of large experience of almost 40 years? What is the best model to manage for a BFSI organization?
Yeah. So good afternoon to all of you once again. So there was some technical glitch and I could not get in. So now I came through another system. So I think now you are able to hear me. You people are able to hear me.
Yes, sir. We can hear you clearly and see you
Very
also.
good, very good. And see me also. Okay. So before I go into the nitty-gritties of the question you have put forth, I would like to tell you and just inform everyone that information security itself is a moving milestone. What is today the control will not stand good tomorrow. So that is the first point which we should keep in mind. So we don't have a solution which fits all. So it cannot, that's like the earlier advertisement of Hero Honda, if you see, fill it, shut it and forget it. That is not possible. Set it, do it and forget it. That is not possible in information security. That is the first lesson we have to learn as an information security expert or information security arena. So every day we have to evolve new things and be ready to face the adversaries in different scenarios with different tactics, techniques and procedure. So that is the basis, bottom line of information security. So once an organization knows about this basic, then naturally I think there will not be any roadblocks or impediment for them to take ahead the information security in the best way. And we all know that unlike your technology, which has got around 2 decades of intertwining with our business, information security took a late birth actually. So, and it came into force in the last 5 years only. It has become highly, say, energetic or highly vigorous, and it has been a thought and think tank for everyone. But before that, it was in a very, what to say, a silent sleeper mode actually. So, information security was available everywhere, but people did not have much of importance to it. But once the CBS and other banking scenario changed from your total branch automation to cluster banking to core banking, and when finally it came to core banking, when a banking setup was anytime, anywhere, any place you can do a transaction, the laws of information security also changed. So that became very important from the banking scenario. So coming to your point, what is the best model is, see, as everything has been evolving over a period of time, and banking sector, as you know, so initially it was in a legacy way, then it came to the computerization way, and then it came to the data center, and finally now it is into the digital era. So these four phases we have seen in the banking industry as far as the technology area is concerned. So based on that, if you see, there has been a development, evolvement at every stage, and it was difficult for the bankers, as a normal banker, as a layman banker. It was in the initial stages, it was very difficult to catch over the technological aspect or get into the technologies and nitty-gritties of the technology and other things. So naturally, what they did is they adopted what is known as some software as a service or something like that, third-party services they tried to avail. Even for the data center, none of the banks ventured into having a data center of their own. So it was only late after another 5-6 years that people started having their own data center. But most of the data center were hosted in a place where it has been already defined and set. So that was the order of the day, and so that has been in the mind of all bankers, and they have been doing like that. And the skill sets also available for such area or this arena of information security was slowly developing. It could not keep pace with the development of what digital banking or digital transformation took place. So there was always a mismatch between the skill sets available for handling this and also taking care of the information security aspects. So that is where people went for, third-party services and other things. And they remained with that for a very long time. And now the scenario is slowly changing, where people are now trying to have in-house SOC also, because you said about SOC. So this is actually common for any activity, for that matter, not only SOC. What I'm telling is common for any activity. But as far as SOC is concerned, SOC is a highly expertise area where you really require high skill set and high acumen for doing the work. And as a banker, banker of domain experience, and it was very difficult for them to cope with this, and that is how they went for what is called a managed SOC or a managed security services, which was part of the SOC. And they used the third-party SOC for that matter, and sometimes they used a shared environment, sometimes a dedicated environment, based on the cost factor and other trade-offs. So that is how this has developed. And but now slowly all bankers they are realizing that they also should have internally skill sets developed along with time and periods. So now slowly all banks are trying to have an in-house SOC also, and it depends on how they can afford to have the capex and other things for having an in-house SOC or in-house data center. All those things are there, and some banks even having their own data center have moved over a period of time to the third-party services like a tier 4 data center or something like that, because over a period of time they could not cope with the transactions or cope with the volume of activities taking place in the banking environment. So it is a two-way, this one. It's an option left to the individual banks to how to go about whether to have an in-house SOC or depend on a third party for that matter. And there is another way also for that. The another way is you initially depend for some third party SOC, and that SOC services does a hand holding for you, and over a period of time you also develop your skill set internally because of the hand holding, and then try to move slowly or migrate to your own SOC. So this is also another method being adopted, but this is quite cumbersome. It takes its own time. So as of now, what most of the banks have been doing is they take the third-party services for SOC or managed security services, and now that cloud is also available, anything on the cloud, so it is there. But cloud is nothing but it is on the ground only. So people should understand it's a myth actually. The moment we say cloud, we think that it's something there in the cloud actually, but it is also a data center. Basically, it is a data center, and it's a pseudonym. It has become a pseudonym actually. Cloud means. So the moment you say cloud, no, so people think that it is somewhere placed somewhere, and you don't know. But the only difference between a own data center or a cloud data center is you don't have visibility for the cloud. So, and it is strewn over different places. So now all banks are slowly adopting the cloud computing arena also. And this is what, as far as SOC in-house or SOC say models are concerned. So, but the problem is SOC as a service. So that is also one more thought process that is coming, like a SaaS or PaaS or IaaS, whatever it is, infrastructure as a service or platform as a service or software as a service. Now SOC as a service. Now we have SIM as a service. So everything they make now, it is a service. So that is how it is. Tomorrow I think they will make skill sets as a service also. I don't know, it may come. That is the order of the day. So when they will give the skill sets to you and they will help you in hand holding and all those things. So that is what is from me as far as SOC and in-house or outsourced SOC is concerned. But it has got its pros and cons. It has got its benefits and advantages of having an in-house SOC. The reason is, you know what is happening. When you have a third-party stock, visibility may be less, very less. That is one handicap. But if you have in-house and skilled people, your reaction to it, or you will be more reactive to it, and you can even become proactive in case you have better tools like your MDR, XDR, and all those things, and SIM integrated with AI and ML. Sir. Yeah, that's it from me.
So very well said. Starting with a punchline, fill it, shut it, forget it, doesn't work in the security world. It's like set it, do it, and still not forget it, because it's a continuous exercise, something which needs to be monitored. And very important point which you put forth, that SOC as a service and managed security services would possibly require people to, would require certain skill sets like XDR and MDR. And here I would like to put this question to Sajiv. Sajiv, in your opinion, you need to have some must-have SOC tools, and then there is a role of intel feeds and threat hunting for different SOC maturity levels. So the question is, when we talk about security orchestration, automation, and response, SOAR, which is the buzzword, to improve the efficiency of physical and digital assets, uh, with human assistance, in your opinion, is this evolved? Does this has widespread acceptance among IT, IS fraternity, among BFSI, IS, IT fraternity? And also possibly touch upon the area of XDR and MDR, which, Mr. Venkataraman spoke about. So Sajiv, over to you. Your thoughts on this?
Thank you, Shailesh. And I got to hear a lot of different opinions and different comments from a lot of panelists and speakers before me. Starting from Rajiv, where he said that the only safe machine, indirectly he said, if something can fail, it will fail. If anything is vulnerable, it will be exploited. Coming back to Murphy's Law. Going on to Sanjivan, who talked about APT or reactive or slow poison as it goes on, where hackers are now adopting a slow response. Gone are the days when you have a malware and suddenly you see all waves across and you know that there is an attack, right? So it is slow poison. Going on, I heard Mr. Prasanna Lohar also talking about internal threats being a big factor, and man behind the machine. While you may have the best technology, having the right skill set and the people. Going on to Venkataraman sir, where he talked about security is not constant and we need to keep evolving. And while everyone would want to have a SOC, specialization and adoption because of having to forego your core competence and to concentrate on security. So coming to all of these aspects, like just putting some perspective to history. So history has shown that most fortifications, so I would refer to fortifications as all the elements like firewall, DLP, antivirus, whatever you want to you call about EDR, those are all fortifications, right? History has shown that it is not fortifications which were broken most of the time, right? It was working around fortifications and the lack of monitoring of those fortifications which has led to attacks and people gaining access to internal, like there can be self-discipline. There can be people told not to steal, right? There can be people told not to hack, but then there will always be elements, right? There needs to be monitoring. There needs to be somebody policing to see that is somebody breaking the law, right? So that is also a reason why, like all the speakers directly or indirectly spoke about the need for monitoring, spoke about for SOC, and more for SOC as a service, because why the service element comes in is because capex involvement is very high when you talk about the elements needed to effectively put in a SOC in place today. The people, the resources which are required to run such a service is also very high. And you need to keep evolving, which is not always possible when you're looking at a smaller playing field or one particular infrastructure per se. Coming to your direct question, Shailesh, on is whatever we are talking about or what is required to secure such an environment, is it feasible in the first place? Is it available? Is it acceptable? Actually, the fact remains, like going back to what Rajiv said, the moment the bank is put in, somebody would start thinking, hey, how do I steal it? Right? So there's no option, but it has evolved, and the market has forced products to evolve. Market has forced the thought processes to evolve, wherein now there are technology available, which can not only look at what is happening, searching for an attack or searching for a security incident from a lot of a lot of information coming in from the infrastructure. It's like searching for a needle in a haystack, right? So coming to that, there are technologies available which start looking at correlation automatically, which start looking at behavioral. So somebody mentioned about insiders, that what do I do? Can I really control? Yes, there has to be discipline, there has to be controls. But having said that, there will always be one careless employee. There will always be one person who goes and breaks the law, right? So this is where there has to be technology which actually catches the effect of that. So if there is a behavioral change because of somebody having caught onto a malware, that behavior needs to be caught. If there is some correlation of somebody trying a brute force, that needs to be caught. If any IoT devices is trying to do a DDoS, that needs to be detected, right? If there is a behavioral change, like somebody mentioned, that two different people logging in from two different locations, so that is a behavioral change that needs to be caught. So are there systems available? Yes, very much there are systems available, or there is an adaptation for that. It may not be easy for every organization to adapt to it, but when a service provider wants to adapt to it and offer it as an offering, it becomes easy because you are looking at scale, and you're also, it benefits both parties, right? And we are also looking at the specialization required, the people required, where a domain or service provider with the type of domain expertise who has handled data and who understands security, when he mixes these two together, can surely offer this as a very effective deterrent in most cases. Deterrent is the word I will use because there is nothing called as panacea for security, right? There is no foolproof security. Coming back to your question on the SOAR part, typically, yes, are there solutions available for SOAR? Very much there are solutions available for SOAR, because obviously when criminals are adopting, or cyber criminals are adopting to AI and ML, obviously there is a need for automation in securing or automation in reaction of security incidents as well. So SOAR is also something which is being available in a big way. Yes, but majorly from the Indian, and not only from India for that matter, across the globe, customers are slowly being comfortable or becoming comfortable to the fact that you will have to let somebody else take control. So that is also a reason you see a lot of adoption of the cloud. And SOAR is also will be the next step in that direction, where you say, hey, I see a threat. I don't wait till morning and inform the customer, get a concurrence. I go and stop it. Yes, the risk element, all those things will have to be agreed upon, and the actionable items will have to be agreed upon. But SOAR again surely seems to be the next way forward. But coming to the basics itself, like especially in a scenario like India, we see that the basics itself are missing. Like I would like to use the word which Gartner captioned a few years back, beyond compliance, because a lot of compliant companies are getting hacked because they are missing the basics. So I think the basics is monitoring, the basics is getting technology into monitoring, and the next level to that is not only monitoring but also reacting proactively. So that's something I would want to put on the table here, Shailesh.
Thank you, Sajiv. Thank you for your insights into what's happening in the area of SOAR and how security orchestration, automation, and response is being deployed to respond to these low-level security events, even without human assistance. So, last question for today's panel from my end is: what is this role of being played by artificial intelligence and machine learning to combat the cybersecurity attacks? Very simple.
Yeah,
Do we have new tools
I think
available?
I think Shailesh, we should have started our session with this question first of all. Okay, why? Because today what is happening, you might do manual testing, manual identification of issues, but AI and ML come into picture, work becomes very easy. Say in FRM, you keep on learning transactional pattern, customer pattern, and you can provide those predictive notifications to the internal user as well as to the customer. So AI brings that agility to everywhere at FRA, RSA tools, or to identify within a fraud or outside of the organization fraud. So I think AI is going to become just like database is there for every application today. So AI is intelligence is very much important for every practice which we have today. That is in nutshell I want to say right now. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with what's been put on the table right away, and that's the key. And there are services, there are tools available which can do that today. So when we talk about say behavioral analysis, a behavioral analysis is nothing but you are predicting a behavior based on past historic behaviors, and that is exactly where predictive analysis has to come in. Things like ML and AI has to come in to predict that. Also, correlating, like as I said, finding a thread today is like finding a needle in a haystack. So correlating all the information coming on it, finding an intelligence out of it, needs a lot of ML and AI at play, and that is something which surely is the need of the hour.
Yeah. So, Shailesh, I would like to add something in this area, if you permit me.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So, AI and ML has been one of my favorite subject always, right from my heydays. So, actually, AI, if you see artificial intelligence and ML is only a subset, or it is just a branch of AI actually. So, it only facilitates for the AI, and the algorithms or artificial intelligence algorithms is what actually makes machine learning. And machine learning actually the success of machine learning will happen only if the right configurations are done, so that three things will happen. One is the prediction, another is the clustering of things, that is known or unknown threats and vulnerabilities. Third is the incident response. If all these three together are successful, then only your ML is successful. And ML is, I can say, it is only a pair of digital hands other than human hands. So that is how it is. And presently, the idea for going for artificial intelligence and ML is one of the factors is not only because of the COVID situation, but the banking sector itself as a whole taking for a digital transformation, due to which there has been a plethora of information and plethora of data and transactions flowing across the banking industry left and right. So it has become very difficult for humanly to analyze this and find out, as Sajiv Nair said, finding a needle in the haystack. It is very difficult. So that is where the thought of artificial intelligence and machine learning came into play. So people thought that this rote work and repetitive work, how it can be reduced, how the false positives can be reduced. Because if you see the evolvement of this SOC itself, as from our earlier speakers, first we had SIEM, and SIEM is got into SOAR, as Rajiv said. Now SOAR is becoming old, and now they are going for XDR, MDR, which is a higher version of SOAR, something more than that, where tactics, techniques, and procedures, all the adversaries' way of doing things is also captured. So this is how the artificial intelligence and machine learning is evolving. So the benefits of this will be reaped only if all these configurations are done properly, and we really see some false positive getting reduced, potential threats being thrown out, and zero-day attacks being averted, then pattern recognition happening, then fileless attacks. Earlier and all, we had a malware or a ransomware or based on file attacks. Now no more adversaries use that technique. They use a fileless attack going into the memory and other things. So that is where artificial intelligence also and machine learning comes into play. So it is a repository And this self-learning will happen only if the right configuration is done, right inputs are given to the, because after all, artificial intelligence also works on human input only. That is the basic bottom line we should understand. So without human, this one, maybe sometimes tomorrow malicious machine learning also can happen if human intervention is not there. So that is a flip side of having artificial intelligence and machine learning also. So, and as my earlier speaker said, you will have UBA, that is user behavior analytics, NBAD, network-based analysis detection, all those will take place. And because the SOAR and MDR, XDR, they collect threat intelligence from different sources, they will be, this machine learning will be able to analyze and come out with its own, this one, if a certain attack comes and how to handle it, whether it has got a past record with itself and how it was averted. So all these things happen. But the bottom line is, finally, the human intervention, the way the machine learning or the algorithm is built in, or the rules are built in, is very, very important. So that is what I would say in this area, sir.
Thank you, Venkataramanji. Sanjivan, any closing thoughts before we open up the room for question and answers? What, in your opinion, is the role which is being played by AML, ML, and how do you really avoid these zero-day attacks, as clearly pointed out by Venkataramanji? Sanjivan, over to you.
Can you hear me, Shailesh?
Yes, Sanjivan, we can hear you.
Yeah, I think good that you posed me. I just wanted to, give some thought process to the people who have joined. So understand SOC. What are the various components? Okay, it's not a story. It's a long story, and you have to progress slowly. For example, now there was a debate that whether you should have an in-house or outsource. Understand, first of all, what you need in the SOC. Understand your infra. Okay, where are the entire PCs, whether it's in DMZ, internal. Understand where is the crown jewel. Okay, do you need a threat intel? So understand this threat intel is very, very important. Threat intel, threat hunting, and threat modeling. Without these components, your SOC is insufficient. It's not SIM. Please understand this, because you have to understand the zero-day attack, right? So which attack has come in the globe? You have to take that and look into your infra, whether you are really vulnerable to that. So there is another component called vulnerability management. Mark my words, it's vulnerability management. It's not vulnerability assessment. Okay, you need to understand which are the assets in your organization and what is the patch level. Okay, and whether they are really vulnerable to the attack which is coming here. So understand these are the components: XDR, MDR, SOAR. This can be progressed. SOAR is nothing but automating your controls. Automate. If the attack is coming, how do you automate to put a control? How to dynamically put your firewall rules? All this automation you think of subsequently. First of all, understand what you need, where your infrastructure is vulnerable, which are the components actually is required, and it's a progress. Start with slow, understand what is the base requirement, move according to that, and then build. XDR doesn't work independently. It needs EDR. So you need to take all these components, slowly go. Put a thought process. Understand one more thing is that in the in-house, do you have a skill set? Okay, there cannot be jack of all. There could be master of none, but master of all, but jack of none. But understand that you don't have these skill sets, and you need an external input also. So look, take a call accordingly. Whether you have the skill set, where do you have to interface outside? Because real-time threats are very important to detect zero-day attacks. So all these are very, very important. Cautious thought has to be taken. Do a risk assessment appropriately, and take your risk team along with that. Okay, take your IT team and see what is happening, how is the infra, and accordingly you ensure that you put a due diligence. And zero-day attack, target on the zero-day attack, probably you will able to justify. This is what I wanted to summarize.
Thank you, Sanjivan. Thank you. So we heard from
Shailendra, one thing. It was jack of all trade, but master of none. So that is what it is.
Yes,
now that is also changing, right? Jack of all trades and master of all as well.
Yeah.
Whether you call it a slip of tongue or tongue of slip,
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, that's
Slip,
it, but
lip of the slang, lip of the slang, not tip of the slang.
Yeah. When we speak, we just go in the flow.
yes. So, indeed, a wonderful session. Just if I had to summarize, what we could gather is that the way the organizations can plan their security posture, move from a security incident and event management (SIM) monitoring to possibly include SOAR, which is the buzzword where you actually take into account the security orchestration, automation, response. Move to the next level of XDR, MDR, and plug in the AI and ML, and that is when you can combat the cybersecurity threat and leverage artificial intelligence and machine learning to ensure that zero-day attacks are evaded, going beyond the traditional defense mechanisms which are adopted by various organizations. With this, I would now like to open the forum to to all the delegates, and if they have any questions for our esteemed panelists, we would welcome that. You could raise your hands or one by one unmute yourself and ask the question. Over to the delegates if there are any questions. Fine. Looks like we do not have any questions from the audience, but Venkataramanji, if just for my satisfaction, you mentioned that tools like XDR, MDR can do help in optimizing your security posture, but don't go beyond a point. So probably a 30-second, 1 minute expansion on that thought, if you could provide.
Yeah. So basically now the next level of information security which is being adopted due to the digital transformation of the banking industry is like EDR, XDR and MDR. So they are flavors of detection and response actually. So different flavors. So EDR is endpoint detection and response. XDR is cross detection and response. MDR is managed detection and response. So these are the buzzwords that are going around in the banking industry and elsewhere also. So the main idea of this is basically what has been happening is all these days, all the incidents or any attacks, whatever were file based, and they were all the tools which were there implemented, they were all going for what is signature based or heuristic based analysis and seeing that anything which is matching with that and taking action in those ways. And this has become a difficult time for adversaries to further move their coin and do any mischief or anything. And they started what is called as a fileless attack. That is how it came. And as far as we know that the fileless attack has been a few years back, 2 to 3 years back, which had happened in one of the cooperative banks, and that is how the genesis of this fileless attack happened. And we also know that about the Maitri attack. The Maitri attack is nothing but the attack spread over say 140 to 200 days. So it has got a different phases like reconnaissance and then getting into the system, then exploiting the system, and getting a hold of a user or an employee of that organization, then trying to do a lateral travel, then privilege escalation, and then finally doing an attack. So this happens in 140 days. And sometimes what happens is the organization, due to the legacy tools which they were used, and they were never able to identify during this period of this reconnaissance and other things which spread over 140 days. And only when the real attack happens, it comes to light to them, and they run pillar to post and do a knee-jerk operation. So in order to avoid these things only, the concept of this Maitri attack and getting into XDR, EDR, and this type of managed detection and response. And if you all agree with me, see, earlier it was prevention, detection, and correction. But slowly it moved to, and it was always, say, reaction was more. Reaction was 80% and response was 20%. But now the equation has changed. Now reaction is only 20%, but the response and detection and response has become 80%. So that is the present equation with which all the tools and all the organizations are working. So first to detect and immediately respond. So in that angle, if you see all these new tools like XDR and MDR and all those things. So they have adopted a technology which is very, very steeply happening. That is, what it does is basically, from what I understand in the various tools and other things, it steeply gets into the system like any other adversary and looks for the tactics, techniques and procedures what is being adopted. See, suppose for example there is a change in the registry of a particular system. So why this registry change has happened, whether it has happened because of a genuine DLL file or something else has come into. So that is how these XDR and NDR try to find out and correlate actions, and how if somebody is using and trying to try an escalation of his somebody's privileges. So why this privilege escalation is happening? So based on that, it takes a call. The tool takes a call and sees why this person is taking an escalation. Why is really a authorized user, or whether he's an unauthorized person trying to take this one. And added to this, we have now, I would add, though it's not a part of this, the deception platform also. So deception platform also to some extent helps in catalyzing this XDR and MDR also. So that also banks are adopting, many organizations are adopting. So they have, say, decoy tools and other things where these tactics, techniques and procedures also captured, and they are lured something more than a very higher end of honeypot. It's not an honeypot, something higher to that. So deception platform is luring you into making you the mistake and seeing it, and based on that taking a call. So what my thought is, in future going, if deception and XDR are together, if they work in unison, I think they can get good results and better results. So that is what is from me in this area.
Absolutely. In fact, they've named this as more like a honeypot and deception solutions, borrowing this word honeypot from the way you would lure some spies, when there is actual warfare at the borders. Thank you so much for your insights, all the panelists, Sanjivan Shirke, Prasanna Lohar, Venkataraman ji. And I would now pass on it to Shardul, thanking you once again, and thank you all the delegates. Over to Shardul.
Thank you, Shailesh. Thank you, all panel members. It was quite a insightful session. I hope the discussion was also fruitful for all our delegates as well. Now, I would like to request Ms. Rashmi Bhargava, CEO, India and BIMSTEC at ESDS, to give a vote of thanks. Over to you, Rashmi.
Thank you, Shardul. Thank you, Shailesh. It was a lovely discussion all about security, and that brought me to one of the very latest discussions that we've been having with people when it comes to security is quantum cryptography. So, to what level we are all going to be evolving now is the random kind of keys, which started in China 2016. They were the first one to build an offensive, and they, to this kind of attacks, and they've also built an offense. So both offense as well as defense, very, very beautifully built in 2016. And I see a lot of trend now getting into where people are talking of this as, can you hear me, guys?
Yes, Rashmi, we can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. So, so this was very interesting when I was listening to all of you, and I said, okay, we have actually reached a notch above when we are talking of defense and offense mechanism when it comes to securing our data. And I think even a layman, given a layman's understanding of data protection, the first thing that comes to anybody's mind is, BFSI, which is the banks need to secure their data. And then without naming few of the banks, but I've seen one of most of the largest banks being hacked for like 7th or 8th time data hack. And that leads us all to think, what kind of security or what kind of breaches are we living into this world? And I just said, we are going to keep coming up with, and I'm going to urge people to actually go back and look at what quantum cryptography is, because that's what is going to take over the cybersecurity for all data as we go forward. So that was a little thought from my end. With that, I would like to thank Mr. Prasanna, Mr. Sanjivan, Mr. Venkatraman, Sajiv Nair, Shailesh and Shardul for organizing this event and helping us understand your perspective of security. Thank you. Over to you, Shardul.
Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you for those wonderful closing remarks. With this, I would like to conclude the session. I hope today's session was helpful for our delegates As a digital transformation catalyst, we at ESDS are always at your service to address your needs. Thank you, everyone. We'll be sharing a feedback form over the email after this session. We request all of you to share a true and fair feedback about today's session. Goodbye from me. Wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year in advance. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you from my side. Thank you, Shailesh ji. Thank you all the
Thank you. Thanks everyone on the
ESDS
call.
individuals and all my colleagues who participated in the panel. So have a Merry Christmas, which is on the anvil, and also a Happy New Year to all of you. Great time for you in the COVID situation. Keep safe.
Thank you, Venkataraman ji. Thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rashmi.
Thank you.